Welcome to a webinar about GitHub Copilot and specifically about AI-assisted programming and how it impacts your software development loops. What are software development loops, you might ask? Well, we have some great panelists here today to talk about it and how to measure those things and why they matter. So I'd like to start first with a little introduction. So if you would like to, I will invite Kumar to introduce yourself, please. Kumar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, sorry for the delay. And I'm Kumar Chivukula, co-founder of Opsera. Happy to be part of this session and want to learn something from you guys. Also contribute something back to the community and see how we can help each other. Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Absolutely. And Vishnu, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. This is Vishnu Vasudevan. I head the product here with Opsera, and glad to be part of this meeting to basically see what you guys do and learn from you and see how we can basically contribute back to the community. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're really excited to have everybody here. And like I said, here's the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about developer experience, what it is, why it matters, how it contributes to developer productivity. And then we're going to talk about AI-assisted programming and some performance. What is GitHub Copilot, right? How do we measure that impact? And then Kumar is going to give us a little rundown of what inner loop and outer loop activities are and how they work together. And then we're going to get a little demo of our platform capabilities. So we have some GitHub Copilot dashboards that measure the performance of GitHub Copilot, and then you can look and see what happens downstream. So I wanted to start with our introduction as a company. So in case you're new here, Opsera is the unified DevOps platform. So you might be asking, well, what does GitHub Copilot have to do with DevOps? You'll learn a little bit more about what DevOps has turned into in the past year or so. But GitHub Copilot is a crucial component to DevOps now. It's helping to make teams deliver software faster, safer, and smarter. And that's our whole ethos at Opsera. Our tool chain automation, CI/CD pipeline automation, security and quality integration, more than 80 plus integrations throughout the entirety of the tools that you use, as well as being able to get you to the source code management platform of your choice and measure all of those things at once is what we do and what we specialize in. We're powered by Hummingbird AI, which is our Hummingbird AI capabilities that help you remediate things faster, pinpoint places to be better at delivering software, and really just give you a complete view of what's going on in your CI/CD, in your DevOps. So let's start with the beginning, right? What is developer experience? If you're here today, chances are you know what it is already, sort of, right? You've been hearing this a lot recently. People have been very much focused on developer experience, improving it, finding ways to make developers' lives a little bit easier so that they can create and deliver better software. But developer experience as a whole is more than just, does a developer feel happy about their job, right? It's about bringing together the tools, the processes, the culture, everything into one place that not only impact how developers are satisfied with their jobs, but also their effectiveness and productivity. You don't want to just make happy developers, right? That's great. We want our developers to be happy, but it is in service of delivering great quality software for the business. So what is developer productivity? I keep hearing it might be a dirty word, right? Developer productivity might be something that people are kind of frowning at, but you don't have to, right? It's not at the expense of developer experience. It is enabled by developer experience. So when you have better developer productivity, you have better quality software delivered faster, better, more efficiently. That's really all it is, right? Is making your jobs easier to deliver better. And that's what we really focus on here at Opsera. So now that we know, what is developer experience, why does it matter to your business? It helps your teams deliver better quality software faster. Then how are AI programming assistants like GitHub Copilot actually contributing to DevEx and developer productivity? GitHub Copilot at its core is here to help give suggestions that take the mental strain off of developers. Just imagine you are a developer and you have to, solve a problem where before you would go to Google or Stack Overflow or some other place to search for an answer for that problem. Now, AI programming assistants like GitHub are there to answer your question immediately for, right when you need it, cut down on those repetitive tasks, deliver relevant code snippets to you so you don't have to go and cut and paste it from somewhere else and bring it in, gives you the answer you're looking for right away. So imagine having somebody over your shoulder every single moment of every single day, helping you do your job better and faster. That's what Copilot is doing for developers. And it's making their lives easier, which is exactly what developer experience is meant to do. So now, once a developer's mental strain is reduced, their cognitive load is reduced, they're able to focus on more complex things. They're learning new things, learning new techniques. They're solving more complex problems faster, and they're doing it with greater job satisfaction, which is exactly what developer experience is hoping to achieve. So now you've got code delivered faster, better, safer, higher quality, exactly what developer productivity seeks to improve. Okay, now we know GitHub Copilot seeks to do these things. How can you tell that it's actually working? How do you know that it is actually doing what you need it to do? So I have a couple of slides here. One is, how do you measure developer experience? You might be asking yourself, sure, it's all well and good that we want to have better developer experience at our companies, but how do you actually make it happen? We've come together with a few examples of how to measure these things, both qualitatively and quantitatively, because when it comes to experience, it's not just about hard data. Of course, you can get hard data in the form of how many features were delivered. How fast is your cycle time, right? From the opening of a job ticket to the close of it. How much time has been saved, throughout the course of this delivery. And qualitative data is how satisfied those developers are with their jobs now. That's still very important to understanding how you've impacted developer experience at your business. I'm going to invite my colleague Vishnu to talk a little bit about how you can start to measure GitHub Copilot and with some examples that relate to developer productivity and developer experience. Vishnu, if you'd like to give us a little overview of how you can measure some of these ways.
You're on mute, Vishnu.
Sorry. Yeah, let me talk about some examples on how we can basically go into adoption usage, but I'll also try and give some real life examples on how we use it within our company as well, which basically helps the developer experience and developer productivity. One is enabling the Copilot is one thing, but you need to make sure that they have the enough resources to basically start using it by making sure it's been enabled in the IDE and they have the understanding of the the Copilot, where they can use it within the IDE or within the GitHub ecosystem, right? Where they can use it as a chat or a code prompting or whatever that is. And then once you basically give them the training, it's important for them to understand that they basically start using the Copilot by making sure that they are not basically deviating from the architecture, right? So those are the basic principles that you might have to do it as a 1 or 2 training sessions with your developers, but experience people you won't have a lot of problem, but if you have people who has less experience, you might have to tell them what exactly needs to be done with a minimum do's and don'ts. That basically helps you to basically bring the adoption where they can start using the Copilot in much efficient way. The moment you basically bring that capability, try to see how do you basically map it to the agile framework, right? Just because you have a Copilot, you assume that 30-40% productivity is going to come in. Do not assign 3-4 more stories to your developers. See how they are doing it in 1 or 2 sprints, understand how the story points are coming in, how they are evaluating now. Then you should basically recalibrate your velocity in terms of how your team can basically handle the stress in terms of, when I say stress, the load, how much they can deliver it, right? And once you start doing it, you make sure that experience is not impacted, your productivity is coming in, but at the same time you have the time savings. And also see how can you basically map the downstream impact, right? Downstream impact is because many organizations, the large enterprise today, The developer experience ends the moment like the CI is completed. But beyond that, you have security, you have quality, you have like a InfoSec team who has to basically approve the code that needs to go into production. If you are not fixing that, what's going to happen is your speed to market is going to be the same, even though you improve the developer experience and productivity. So if we can basically look at those the process in parallel, have an orchestration platform which can basically have everything run together in one single pipeline, then you'll be able to identify the bottlenecks and then the manual work that the team is doing. And once you basically fix it, then your entire ecosystem will start show up the true value of Copilot by having the developer experience, productivity, and also your manual, I would say manual work or the bottlenecks where it takes more time for security team to review, or the feedback coming from security to developer needs to be fixed, you can fix it. That way, you can have more deployment frequency, which means that you have less change failure rate in the production, and then less incidents in the production. Also, your lead time for change is going to be faster. By the time the developer makes the first commit, how soon that commit goes into production. So you need to basically take a look at the entire ecosystem, and then making sure that every pieces are put together and utilize the Copilot at the maximum, so you can reap the value in terms of speed to market.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you very much for giving us an overview. Talking about using GitHub Copilot to the maximum, right? That's all everybody's thinking about. Everybody's starting to adopt it shallowly, right? How are you going to increase that adoption and usage? That's a big question on a lot of enterprises' minds. So I want to invite our esteemed colleague and Kumar here to give us a little overview about what are some of the challenges that are preventing enterprises from actually seeking deeper and wider adoption. What are some of the challenges that people are experiencing right now?
Yeah, thank you, Anand. Thank you, Vishnu. And I think this, anytime you do the change management, and especially developer cognitive load, is they deal with so many distractions, and with IDE, story points, Scrum meetings, and their enhancement, bug fixes, and architecture discussions, design discussions. You throw something on top of it, most people accept it, but at the same token, it becomes a change management issue for the company. It's a cultural aspect. You need to give enough tools for the developers. They learn fast more than anybody else. They are very smart programmers and they understand the value of that. But having especially when you deploying this Copilot in a wider organization, you need to have a program in place, and having the program with clear outcomes and with measurable metrics for the developers to understand whether they're able to make an impact using Copilot. That means that give the training, as Vishnu pointed out, give the option for them to understand and test it out without putting a lot of the load on them in the first place. Don't measure from the day one. Understand and have them understand the Copilot usage and adoption. So the biggest challenge that we see is adoption. You can see it's like a sugar rush, right? Anything you try to adopt something 10 to 20%, and after that you hit a wall. You need to build the champions. Basically, for that to happen, build the champions in each of the business units or each of the strategic business units or the development teams. Have them work with the respective developers, understand what is working, what is not working, bring it up and make sure that have a forums and openly discuss the information. That will provide a safe environment for the developers to adopt these things, so that the adoption increase from 20 to 30, 30 to 40%. And recognize the people. And more importantly, you have to recognize the people who are really making use of the technologies and tools to make the lives better for the developers and also for the company, right? In terms of improving the time to market, and reducing the lead time, and also improving the stability, reliability, improving the velocity, and what have you. So it's a journey. It's not like one time event. You turn the Copilot on and expect to see the adoption going. You will see initial, basically just like any other thing, a marketing bell curve that we all remember. Initially, the early adopters, but to get the late adopters, and you have to put some lot of effort, and having the proper tools and the change management and training and cultural aspects, you will have a much better success. We have seen it with some of the customers where they have a program and then nurturing to the program. We've seen going from 10%, 20% to all the way to 70% now in the less than 4 months, 5 months. You have to make a conscious effort to improve that. Once it reaches 70%, 80%, it becomes yet another tool for them, yet another thing that they need to deal with on the day-to-day basis. So that's pretty much we can at a high level, and it's no different than AI assisted versus non-AI assisted. It's a change management, it boils down to change management.
So that's a great point. Adoption is one thing that's incredibly on everyone's mind, and getting deeper adoption amongst all of your teams. But one of the things that is really also on people's mind is a lack of comprehensive insights, right? And understanding both the developer activity and then how does it impact downstream metrics. One of the ways we're seeing to be able to measure those things is the inner and outer loop framework. And I want to invite you, Kumar, to tell us about the software delivery performance and operations, inner loop and outer loop. Can you give us an overview first, and then we'll look at a slide that tells us exactly where things fit in metrics?
Yeah, for those of you on the call, I don't think it's anything new that we are talking about it. This inner loop and outer loop concepts are been evolving right now. And especially with respect to Gen AI and the AI assisted programming and the way it was done, software delivery management, we need to take a step back and look at the overall delivery framework. It used to be done DevOps, DevSecOps. Nothing, we're not departing from the basic fundamentals and concepts. But what we're trying to do is with Gen AI, how we can look at the overall framework and how we can divide the functions into two parts. One is when I say divide the functions, inner loop and outer loop, these are the terms used by McKinsey. We're kind of borrowing them and trying to map it to the DevOps, DevSecOps. Inner loop, for the most part, it's software development, which is where developers tend to spend most of the time. And the software delivery developers also contribute there, but it's mostly DevOps and operations people, SRE teams. They our platform engineering team, depends on how the org structure is there. That is outer loop. If you really think about the industry statistics, 70% of the work has to be done in inner loop to get the maximum benefit. 30% should be done in software delivery. It should not be the other way around. What we see, many organizations, they end up creating the silos in software delivery with the different disparate tools, disparate culture of various teams working on their for own benefit. You don't get the higher value. And we see about 60-40, 50-50 sometimes, but putting the more activity in the inner loop will yield better results for the company. And then we'll also empower the developers to deliver things faster, happy developers, and give the better outcomes for you. So there are ways you can do software. Inner loop is software development, outer loop is software delivery. So in a way to say that the coding, building, unit testing, design, architecture, those are the things will come into the inner loop. And the delivery aspect is, which we all know, integration to the tools, pushing them to from the code to Artifactory and to the high upper respective environment with Kubernetes cluster, VM deployment, a tar file, zip file, what have you, along with better quality security. In doing so, how do you measure each of them, like in the inner loop and outer loop? These are some of the things that we kind of touched upon it, and you have a way to do that. This is more of a representative view how you can see it. By no means we're not saying that developer inner loop is nothing, doesn't touch with quality security. There's always the unit testing, integration testing, unit testing and security lint testing will be there under developers. Developers will be part of that, but more you shift left or shift down, we will have a way to improve your productivity and also like catch the issues faster and then resolve the issues faster before you release them to production. And if you go to the next slide, which is the framework that we believe that there is a slightly overlap, but how we can devise them into inner loop and outer loop. And inner loop is nothing but coding, building, unit testing, plus some parts of the security quality, but mostly outer loop revolves around integration, deployment. It's a CD and mostly CI, beyond CI, and but it includes security quality as well. And what we can bring them together with Opsera, we're trying to bring both inner loop and outer loop measurements together from the code commit to code deploy. How do we measure that? Some of the key measurements we should factor them into with using Gen AI framework. Obviously, now the Copilot is coming in as an assistant for the developers. You have to factor how much of Copilot is really helping the developers. Is it really helping? Not helping? If so, is it really adding value to them? And are developers happy? Is the commit statistics improving? And the story points the story points picked up the developers. Is the first commit to deployment, first commit to the lead time to first commit is going up, going down, and cycle time is improving. And overall developer 360 view, that includes surveys, your developer activity, developer satisfaction, along with how they're able to cope up with the changes that are coming in. That's predominantly around Copilot, with the Copilot coming in with inner loop. That's where you should start introducing new metrics. And doesn't mean that you can measure them. Like as Vishnu pointed out, how do you take the activity that has been generated by inner loop, and how do we correlate back to the outer loop activities? Because it's important. At the end of the day, you can invest all these tools, you generate them, but are you able to generate the business outcomes? Business outcomes will be measured with the outer loop. Basically, are your stability, reliability, and then throughput and velocity. And stability, reliability is nothing but your change failure rate. Are you delivering the features without impacting the customers, without impacting the platform? Are you able to deliver things faster with better quality, better security? And which is how frequently you're doing the deployments. What is MTTR looks like? What is the change failure rate? Are you able to address the security issues, critical, high, medium, and ahead of time, so that you don't have to catch these issues while application running in production? And the overall maturity, right? How organizations are maturing within the teams. Basically, you may have multiple teams. How you're able to measure the maturity levels, elite, high, medium, and low, and with respect to like which each dimension, and or looking at the quality and as well as technical debt. It's not about just delivering new features, but are you able to reduce the technical debt in the ecosystem? Because the more technical debt that you have, it's going to catch up, and it's going to blow up on a face one of these days. Like, and we keep ignoring it. It's just a matter of taking the time. Kicking the can down the road is taking the time bomb for the companies. So, but our goal is to reduce the technical debt, improve the deployment frequency, reduce the lead time, improve the change failure rate and MTTR, so that you can time to market velocity is better, and also reducing your cycle time, and also reducing your MTTR change failure rate will significantly improve your satisfaction with your customers, and your business outcomes will also be there. And your customer satisfaction, security posture, time savings. And last but not least is about opportunity cost that you have, right? The more you use the tools, and you can achieve things faster, and also you can have a leg up in the competition as well, right? It's all about, every company is a software company. Gone are the days where you can say just only purchase the tools from outside. Companies have to adopt the software engineering culture. And with Copilot is coming in, it's the equalizer. That's what we see. How do we leverage the equalizer of the Copilot to enhance your productivity, enhance experience, enhance the time to market, and so on and so forth? That's in a nutshell what we see outer loop, inner loop.
Thank you so much, Kumar. I think that's really helpful for people to kind of, I mean, they don't know where to start a lot of times, right? What metrics should I actually be focusing on? We're lucky to have some out of the box options for folks, but a lot of people, you know, they're trying to build it themselves, and sometimes they're struggling. So here's a little overview of what we think of when we think of maturity. And you'll notice on the right here are some of the things we just talked about. If you are really a mature company, you're able to get all of those downstream and upstream metrics that Kumar just described. You're able to see, if you make a change, how does that impact your delivery times? How does that impact your ability to roll back a problem? If you're operating at a flying level, you're able to see these things at a glance. So I'm excited to be able to invite Vishnu here to share his screen and show us a demo of how to actually measure those key capabilities that we talked about in the inner loop and outer loop. So Vishnu, I'm gonna stop my sharing and go for it.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, so as we went through the deck, like we talked about like Copilot, and then talked about the inner loop, outer loop, how the developer experience can be like tracked. How can we basically measure the overall, the maturity process around the software delivery ecosystem? So this is the Opsera portal, like where we are a SaaS platform, and all you have to do is just come and connect your tools. You don't have to do anything. Don't have to change any process within your ecosystem. All you have to do is just go to the NX, and you will have like a bunch of KPIs that you can basically like click and start like using it like right away. So imagine like you are already started the journey with Copilot. You're starting the journey with Copilot. All you have to just like click the Copilot link, and you'll be able to basically see how you can basically get the metrics in terms of what is your adoption, how many licenses are allocated, how many people are using it on a weekly basis, daily basis. You can change the view however you want, and you can basically see like how the adoption is coming in. And then your developer activity, where they spend most of the times. Are they like in IDE, they're using the platform? Are they accepting the code, suggestions? Are they like rejecting it? And you can measure those KPIs. And if you look at the GitHub Copilot API as such, it basically gives the high level data point for you in terms of like understanding your developer activity, acceptance, and suggestions. But beyond that, like if you want to correlate with the downstream impact, that is not available today in the market. But what we have done is, since we know the list of tools that is available in the market with the transformation layer, which is patented to Opsera, we'll be able to correlate and give you the data in terms of the most like commonly or widely used languages that like within your ecosystem, and why some of the languages are used, which is like not into the Copilot ecosystem adoption. You can basically get those information. You can understand the developers who is using it, who is not using it, and then like you'll be able to see like how we can basically train them, bring them into the ecosystem, so you can basically add developer experience, which in turn will basically improve the developer productivity. And we also have the suggestions and acceptance, where you can basically understand the number of lines generated versus number of lines accepted. And this is the interesting part, right? How is your commits and PRs are coming along? So as and when like a developer start using the Copilot, and are we seeing increase in the commits? The commits are basically getting moved to PRs. This is the critical part. Once you basically start seeing this value, this will basically, you can basically be sure that like you are going to have a very good impact on the downstream KPIs with respect to DORA, with respect to a security posture, and then like in terms of your agile framework KPIs, and then like your DevEx KPIs. Okay, so this is a DevEx KPI that we give, right? Like where you have basically a classification to understand your Copilot users and your non-Copilot users. If you look at here, the Copilot users, they are able to commit like 47 commits with like 63 tickets. And then like your non-Copilot, like you look at it like how much they are able to contribute, like 81, 31. So you can understand like how things are going to change. Maybe initially people might be reluctant to use Copilot, but like the moment they get used to it, you'll start seeing the value in terms of number of commits coming in. Also, you can start measuring the size of the PR as well, right? Like when I say size of the PR, like did they basically add new code? Did they basically refactor the code? Did they deprecate the certain code? You can basically understand those KPIs as well within Opsera. In this case, in the commit statistics, you will have filters to understand the contributors, branches, repositories. And we also tell you how well the process that you have put in your ecosystem is working, right? So we have this number of commits, the contributors, 99 tickets, they have it in Jira. But like we see that like around 37.5% of the commits that is going into the GitHub ecosystem does not have any Jira correlation. That means people are not following the process. This can be a problem for you when the code goes into production, because the QA will not have the visibility if they don't have a Jira ticket for the commit the developer is making. That means like you might miss the testing, you might miss the security component during the production deployment. That can basically come back to you like in the form of incident or a change failure rate. So you can basically find that information here by applying the filter, and you can basically like bring the Jira back. And you also can go to the commit and see like what was the commit all about. And then like you have the PR statistics. Again, like we have this KPI between the Copilot users trend versus PR trend versus the overall PR statistics. And you can also understand like what's happening within the ecosystem, and what is the time taken for the list of pull requests to be approved, right? Like, or like basically like even taken care. So somebody opens a PR and the PR sits in the system for 1 week, and then like comes back to a developer with a lot of feedback where developer needs to look into it. And the chances of experience of going down is very, very high, because you might be end of the sprint, and the developer might be on a timeline to basically like complete that feature as part of the sprint. So you can basically understand all these bottlenecks to see like where the gaps, like how can you improve, and you'll be able to help bring the developer experience, which in turn is going to bring you the developer productivity as well. So I was talking about the time taken for the PR size, and then like the PR review process and everything that is available here. So what is the average time taken to review a minimum PR size, right? We can give you the PR size in terms of whether it's like 200, 240, 260 or 120. And we can also tell you that like, did they modify their code? Did the lines were removed, or like what are the new lines that's been added? Then you can understand, or you can basically come up with an idea how well the testing needs to be done. Do you need to add more regression use cases in the sprint, or like does the testing team need more time because new codes are added? That means new regression cases needs to be added, new test cases needs to be created. This can basically give you indicator in terms of like how you can plan your overall agile framework working with the product team. This is on the DevEx. And similarly, like we have the velocity KPIs, right? Which is an interesting fact. If you have Copilot like executed in a way where developers are adopting like to an expected rate, you should see developers basically handling Jira tickets with more story points. I'm not talking about more Jira tickets. I'm talking about today a developer basically without Copilot is basically marking a story at 8 story pointer. And with Copilot, like 2 sprints, 3 sprints down the line, he's comfortable with Copilot. He can basically mark that story as a 3 story pointer because he knows that Copilot can be a person which can help him like complete the code faster, complete the feature faster. And we'll be able to tell you like how the story points adoption is coming in, and like how many people are basically taking the story in a sprint, completing within the sprint, or is it going to 3 sprints, 4 sprints? If it is going beyond 3 sprints, 4 sprints, what is the problem? Is that something that developer is basically asked to work on a story that he started working on a sprint because some other priority came in? Then that's a problem that we have to talk to the product team to make sure that like they don't do that, because even these things can basically cause impact to your developer experience. So that's where we basically bring in all the KPIs together, where you can put together a storyboard, understand your bottlenecks, understand your manual work process, understand like where the gaps are, so you can basically improve the process, not just around the DevSecOps, DevOps, but also you can improve the process on the Agile framework as well. This is on the defect density. Now imagine like my team was using Copilot for like last 3 months. My defect density was like bit high, like maybe 6 months down the line. Now with Copilot, I could see like they are reducing the defect density to like a much lesser rate because they are able to do a lot of unit testing during the development phase. They don't basically complain about, oh, I don't have time to basically write the feature and also write the unit testing. So these are the value adds that I can take from the Copilot, where it is basically bringing me an impact with respect to the outer loop.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you for that demo. I think that was really helpful for people to see and not just, us tell them, right? Do you want to, go through the DORA dashboard real quick for us?
Yeah, finally the bigger piece, right? Like DORA, like it's a DevOps Research Association KPIs, where you basically track your deployment frequency, lead time for changes, change failure rate, MTTR, and reliability KPIs. And this is the beauty of Opsera, right? Now with Copilot, you cannot basically understand who are the users basically using the Copilot effectively, but we have found a way to basically track the Copilot user impact to LTFC, right? For instance, like this is your LTFC, and what is the previous time period? What is the current time period, right? And you can basically see that like previously for the first commit to go to production, it was 634 days, like 2 periods ago, and then 107 days. Now with Copilot, the team is able to improve. The first commit takes only 31 days to go to production. You can click this, you can deep dive, and you can basically understand as per the industry standard, are you at elite, high, medium, or low, whatever that is. And you'll also be able to understand whether like what is the time taken for a commit coming from a Copilot user versus non-Copilot users. And you can also understand the commit ID, and you have this commit link and the ticket ID. So anytime that like you have like any issues, you can quickly track it from insights and go talk to the developers, go talk to the product team and see like why is like a commit taking like more than 30 days or 45 days to go to production. So you can use this data point to plan your PI in a much better way. So like the developers are not basically like writing the code, stopping the code, working on some other feature. So I'm basically trying to bring back everything to developer experience, because end of the day, if you take care of the developer experience by bringing the tools or giving the tools they want, and then fixing the gaps that you have within the ecosystem on the Agile framework or like any other tools or outside the ecosystem, your speed to market is going to improve automatically, and which is going to improve your developer productivity as well. And similarly, you have the deployment frequency. This is the key part of Copilot. If you are using Copilot effectively, like 70%, 80% to an effect, the adoption, you are going to have deployment frequency go to elite status. Like by making sure your change failure rate or MTTR is not basically impacting. Just because you're deploying frequently, you need to make sure that like your change failure rate is low, and then like your incidents coming into the ecosystem after deployment is very less or like zero. And you can also basically understand what is your system driven maturity, right? Which is another key part where we basically give the combination of all the 4 DORA KPIs. You can understand, okay, you are doing well in 2 areas within the KPIs, and what are the 2 areas you are not doing well? Why is it? You'll be able to measure that as well. So we have similar KPIs as well in terms of cycle time for changes, where you can understand like the compare and contrast your JIRA from the time the story created to story going into production, where it is sitting for a long time. Like, is it sitting in the like a backlog? Backlog is fine, but like the moment it goes to developer queue, you should not basically pull it back to the backlog, because that might impact the developer experience as well. You can track all this information here by clicking the comparison, choosing the projects, choosing the status, and you'll be able to understand how many defects were created, how many defects were resolved, and what is the maximum time taken. And you can basically apply the thresholds in terms of like reviewing the PR, approving the PR, or like the defects to be handled. You can apply all these things. On top of it, like we have this Hummingbird AI, which will give you a total summary, evaluation, remediation by looking at all the data points that you have within DORA. So if you're an executive like VP or director of engineering or engineering manager, you don't have to drill down all the KPIs. Just click off a button. You're going to get the summary, evaluation, recommendation for you to understand the bottlenecks and find the needle in the haystack, so you can basically go address it. That way, like you can basically mature the process, making sure that like whatever the process that you're putting, it's basically working. Otherwise, take that as a feedback loop, work with the development team, work with the product team, work with the architects to make sure you bring a process which is going to improve the developer experience and productivity. I know like it might look overwhelming, but like I'm just trying to basically give a story, right? Like you start with the Copilot KPIs, and then you move to the DevEx, and then like you go to the Agile Framework KPIs, and then your DORA KPIs, finally your security dashboard. You can have like any security tools like static code answers, dynamic code answers, container scan. And with Opsera, you can basically connect any tool, any commercial tool, and we'll be able to give you the KPI on the overall security posture. What is your organization posture with respect to critical vulnerabilities? It can be SAST, it can be DAST, and you can also understand the trends. And you can also like understand the authors, like who are basically contributing this like security issues into your code. Imagine that like you have a 0-day vulnerability, just like Log4j, and you want to understand which application is having the 0-day vulnerability. All you have to do is just click this filter and choose the component name, and we'll be able to give you the AI-based remediation based on NIST and Department of Defense, and give the feedback to developers. You exactly have to run this command to basically resolve the 0-day vulnerability, and then they'll be able to fix it like in the next commit with the where the pipeline is going to get triggered. And you can basically track it. Okay, what are the different applications with these 2 vulnerabilities, and you'll be able to get the filter and just focus on these 2 applications, rather like working with multiple application teams and developers where it might take a long time for you to resolve it. With that, I'll give a pause. I'm happy to take any questions. And good news is we do have free trial for Copilot. It takes only 5 minutes by connecting your GitHub, and we don't need write access. It's all like read-only access. Less than 5 minutes, you'll be able to start seeing the data from the last 28 days, and then you can measure it going forward as well.
Thank you, Vishnu. I'm going to share my screen real quick so they can get a direct link to that offer, because it's a pretty exciting one for us. Something I do want to reiterate that you said that I think is really important for people to remember, and there's a differentiator for Opsera, is that you can drill down to the individual developer level and see those individual statistics and metrics, and how GitHub Copilot impacted that individual, how their work impacted the business as a whole. I think that's really important, because I think people are starting to realize that they need team level metrics. They need individual metrics. They need the ability and choice to make their own decisions about how they're going to measure success. And a lot of times they're only given one or the other, right? They're not given a whole picture. And we're here to really give you the tools and ability to measure success at your business the way you need to. So I want to commend your team, Vishnu, for really drilling down and helping unite all of these various metrics from across the tools, across teams, all the way down to the individual level to help GitHub Copilot be better and be maximized, which is the entire point of this webinar. Let's maximize it. And that's how you are going to do it. So here is a quick little QR code that you can scan to get that free trial that Vishnu mentioned. So it is a 14-day free trial of GitHub Copilot metrics. So you saw that dashboard, gives you a lot of really great information, really out of the box. It takes a very short amount of time to get up and get started. I saw someone get started in 45 minutes. It seemed like a marvel, but they started getting Copilot metrics right away. And you can get all of those developer activity, adoption and usage metrics, all those crucial components that will help you start to make better decisions. And you can see what your data starts to look like. Definitely scan this QR code, definitely get started in an hour or less and see what it could look like for your business. I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a minute after I let you know about the next content that we have coming up. So we run a series called the DevOps Huddle, and it dives a little deeper into how to utilize some of these metrics, what metrics to actually look for. This is episode 3 of a 3-part series about unified insights. So the first part was about GitHub Copilot metrics. The second part was about DORA. So we talked a little bit about DORA today, but that is definitely a deep dive. And the third one is going to be about developer experience and security. So Vishnu gave us a little demo today. This DevOps Huddle will dive deeper into those concepts. So if you need something that goes a little further into detail, this is your webinar. I wanted to check real quick and make sure we didn't have any questions. I see that Kumar answered a question in chat. I'm going to just quickly summarize it for folks who were curious. So we had an attendee ask, how do you measure quality of code in the Unified Framework? Are you using best practices rules, etc.? So Kumar, your answer here is we have native integrations with all of the key security tools that you will be using. So we are enabling you to set up gates and quality thresholds based on your needs, right? For any of the tools that you're utilizing. So we also have that capability for SaaS and Salesforce. So, you know, you're not just leaving out Salesforce or other SaaS applications like Boomi, Informatica. We're bringing them all into the fold. So it doesn't matter where you're trying to find security and quality. Yeah, if you've got the tools, we can help you do it. Did you have any other questions? And if not, I'm going to go back to the offer for the free trial and leave it up for a few minutes. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you so much to Vishnu and Kumar for giving us a rundown about developer experience, developer productivity, those inner and outer loops and how they work together, and then how we're measuring them at Opsera to help you do a better job at your business. So thank you very much, y'all, for joining us.
Thank you, Anna.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you, Vishnu.
very much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone.